The Daily Mail? Do they want to turn Yahoo into the biggest tabloid in the world?
Yeah, I think a lot of people woke up to this news going, well, okay, interesting. I mean, I guess on some level it makes sense. You could say Yahoo does sort of have a wide appeal. The Daily Mail is sort of a wide appeal. I mean, there's some maybe parallels there, but at the end of the day, I think that this does look like a newspaper that's, trying to find a digital way, and Yahoo is sitting right there and saying, hey, check us out.
It's interesting, David, the list of suitors gets longer and longer for this company that supposedly nobody wanted. What do you make, David, of the Daily Mail now throwing its hat into the ring?
Well, I actually know the Daily Mail somewhat well. Martin Morgan, its CEO, came to the last Techonomy conference. He's super smart. He's focusing very much on the United States. And I do think there is a kind of a match in terms of the market that they think that they're reaching, which is a very sort of mass market, pop culture oriented, not super highest common denominator type of audience. They're looking for ordinary people who want sort of moderately entertaining type news, and it's not that far from the people that Yahoo has. I do think that, to me, the most compelling combination is with Verizon, and the whole thing with Tim Armstrong as a leader of a combined AOL Yahoo, which looks very likely, at least from their point of view, to be something they want to have happen, is a very compelling combination. But I think the Daily Mail, which is a company that has a much bigger web presence than most Americans realize, could be a good potential buyer.
And the Daily Mail has, Brian, apparently been beefing up its presence among a U.S. audience, focusing on younger users, focusing on celebrities. But the list in general, I mean, it's like 40 different companies looking at Yahoo now. I mean,
there's
right?
a lot, yeah, and you hear a lot of numbers, and there's a lot of new names coming out every day. You can imagine I hear about, I'm at my desk, oh look, another name just came out. So there's definitely a lot of names, but this, I guess you could stand back and say, look, this actually is good for Yahoo. If there are people looking at this company, just like a couple weeks ago, we were talking about, is this company viable, well, et cetera, how's this process going to go? Well, at least we're seeing a lot of interest. I mean, you can at least take that away from this.
David?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's kind of impressive that so many people have that much faith that Yahoo still matters. As somebody who's one of those dinosaurs that still uses Yahoo Mail, I just hope that whoever buys it keeps it running pretty well. It's still pretty good, maybe not quite as good as Gmail, which I also use, but it's a big technical challenge to own Yahoo. If a company like the Daily Mail owns it, they're going to have to beef up their tech chops.
There's still a question of value. How much is the core business really worth? Some people have valued it at less than nothing, others $8 billion. Take a listen to what Marissa Meyer told me in our last interview about what the core business is actually worth.
My goal is to just make it worth the most it can possibly be worth. And that means maximizing revenue, executing as well as we can on our revenue plan, really managing our costs well. That's something else that we really pride ourselves on, and doing the best we possibly can to return shareholder value.
Well, not a concrete answer there, Brian, but, what are the numbers that we're actually looking at?
Look, I think that's going to be interesting on some level. Marissa is going to come out here next week and say, here's the quarterly results here, later this month, here are the results, here's how we're doing, here's the revenue she just talked about. But at the end of the day, I think investors are going to listen for any little driplets and droplets on how's the sale process going, how's the sale process going, how's the sale process going. And of course, she's going to be, probably not be able to say a lot there, but that's what people are going to care about. And so it's going to be kind of interesting how that dynamic works.
It's interesting, David. We were speaking earlier about a sharing issue on Facebook and how a decade ago, maybe Yahoo was the place to go for news. Now it's Facebook, but even Facebook is, potentially having difficulties. Is it ever possible to be in reverse, to sort of, make a comeback when it comes to a news media site? Just like technology turnarounds haven't been very successful, if Apple perhaps being the only real one. Can it happen in media?
Well, anything can happen, but there aren't many Steve Jobses out there, and I think it's tough. I used to use a My Yahoo homepage as my first thing that when I turned on my browser for many years. It was very cool, and it's not been cool for a really long time. But yeah, I think that the right buyer consolidating it with the right properties could make something that a lot of people wanted to use. That's why I think Tim Armstrong, combining it with AOL could be really interesting. But it's fascinating. I'm not a huge fan of the ability of Time Inc. to really figure this stuff out. Having worked there for 25 years, I think their digital strategy has endlessly been wrong. So I hope that that doesn't happen for Yahoo's sake.